Eesti Fotofestival esitleb okupatsioonide muuseum Tallinnas 25. september 2010. Toimus Frances Lindstromi fotonäituse Impeeriumi varjud avamine ning avatud Eesti Fondi fotokonkursi Vabadus meie õuel pidulik lõpetamine.
Kõik lootsid, et kui tuleb Eesti riik, on kõik justkui
Sel suvel kutsuti Eesti inimesi üles pildistama vabadust tänases Eestis. Autasustati huvitavamate piltide autoreid.
Kui sa kuulsid sellest konkursist, mis tunne sind valdas, et ma kohe tahan osa võtta või mõtlesid natuke ka?
Ei, ikka mõtlesin, et kõike pilti ikka ei sobiks sinna panna.
Tänati vabatahtlikke žürii liikmeid.
Aitäh meie armsad vabatahtlikud.
Täna toimus avatud Eesti Fondi poolt korraldatud fotokonkursi Vabadus meie õuel auhinnastamine ja Frances Lindstromi näituse Impeeriumi varjud avamine okupatsioonide muuseumis Tallinnas.
Kuidas hindate Vabadus meie õuel konkursi õnnestumist? Kas pildid olid ootuspärased?
Ei saa öelda, et meil väga mingit ootust oleks olnud. Meil oli tõesti ootus selles, et see üleskutse leiab palju vastukaja ja palju osalejaid ja seda ta tegi. Me kindlasti oleme see osalejate arvuga 335 fotot väga rahul oli, mida hinnata.
This was a significant life experience for me to be welcomed into people's lives and people's life stories.
Kuulati, mida kõneleb oma fotonäitusest Impeeriumi varjud autor Frances Lindstromi ise.
I remain grateful for this honor and very thankful to all and our colleagues from the Open Estonia Foundation and to you all for your interest.
Frances Lindstrom on rahvusvahelise avatud ühiskonna instituudi Ida-Ida piiriülese koostööprogrammi direktor ja hobifotograaf. Viimase 20 aasta jooksul on ta külastanud kümneid Ida-Euroopa ja Kesk-Aasia maid ning jäädvustanud nõukogude aja sümboleid ja varemeid. Mustvalgetest fotodest koosnev näitus jutustab loo muutustest endistes Nõukogude Liidu riikides pärast impeeriumi lagunemist. Näitus jääb avatuks kuni 15. oktoobrini.
Hello.
Hello.
What has inspired you in doing all those photographs?
I think, well, I was a student in Moscow in 1990 and 1991, so I suppose approaching the Soviet Union and the Soviet times academically as a student through textbooks, but in real life it's much different, and it was much more overwhelming to me than could ever be portrayed in books. The actual magnitude of the empire, the architecture of the empire was incredibly overwhelming to me, so I simply, for my own purposes, so I would remember literally what it looked like was really the origins of why what then became a 20-year passion of trying to understand an empire that so consciously tried to kill people's dignity. And then the fascination for me became people's dignity in a very brutal and dark time.
So you have traveled a lot through the former Soviet Republic countries, and may I ask what kind of equipment have you used to take all these pictures, and why are they black and white?
My equipment is very, very simple. I have a very old Leica camera, two very old Leica cameras, very small, and the question was they had to fit in my bag. So it was not a conscious professional photographer's decision in terms of equipment. But I understand photography only as film photography and really only in black and white because I do my own printing. So photography for me is, which I imagine is for you as well, more than just taking the image, but it's the whole process. And I'm old-fashioned or old. Or I believe black and white as an artistic style is extremely powerful. It really allows through an image really the essential elements to be portrayed. So that's purely a personal style in preferring to shoot in black and white and doing the entire process myself.
But how did you learn to do pictures itself? I mean, with the chemicals and developing everything. Where did you learn it, and how you were able to get the materials for that?
No, I was very fortunate. I actually didn't start printing my own images until about 5 years ago. And I was speaking with a friend of a friend of a friend. You know, good things usually happen. And this friend of a friend is a photographer. And we started talking about photography. And I showed him some of my images. And he said, oh, you know, these are very powerful. And if you knew how to print and understood the process and the subtleties and nuances of light, you could do something with your photography. So he taught me how to print. And has quickly became my mentor, now friend. And literally in his dark room just outside of London, I would spend Saturday afternoons with him learning how to print.
Then I would like to ask you one question. What is your opinion, I mean, both good sides and bad sides about the Soviet regime? As now, when you have traveled so much and seen the life, and in many places it's pretty much the same like it used to be during Soviet time. So, good and bad points in your opinion?
Oh my goodness, it's overwhelming still. I mean, you know, in the last 18 months, 2 years, I've spent a great deal of time reflecting exactly on this. Through these images, through the hundreds more, archivally, I'm still perplexed. And I'll never understand, and I'll never feel, because I never lived through the Soviet times, but I'm perplexed, again, as I mentioned earlier, of the brutality and the sort of ugliness, I suppose, of the empire, and looking at the images and what they were meaning or representing to me through, as I mentioned, the architecture that was meant to destroy people's dignity, and that's something that I fortunately never experienced and will never understand. But this is what strikes me after all these 20 years of riding trains and buses and cars and hitchhiking across Kazakhstan, for example. Just the deep sort of penetration of of what this empire was all about. It was frightening to me, as I say, and I've never lived under it, never lived in the Soviet Empire, but 20 years later I find it frightening.
But how would you compare Estonian development after getting our independence back with the other former Soviet Union republics?
I think Estonia, in its trajectory, the Europeanization reforms to the European Union really set an example, an inspiration, and an example. I think to compare. I think is really a bit artificial because of the levels of development. But I am absolutely convinced and feel very fortunate to have seen a bit over the last 20 years and been inspired by Estonia's resilience and forward-looking and innovativeness in terms of social development.
So finally, I would like to ask you, what are your plans for the future now that you have been traveling around all those countries for 20 years and taking photos? What are your future plans?
Oh gosh, in terms of photography, I don't know just yet. I've been thinking a lot about that as well, you know, reflecting on this, and one side of me thinks that, well, this was the first chapter, the first 20 years, and what will the next 20 years look like? And I may very well, because it's such a passion, just continue to photograph. As I was photographing these, it never occurred to me that I would make an exhibition or that there would be a book out of them. So there was no sort of plan, but on reflection. So that's my style about photography anyway. So I as long as I am fortunate enough to spend time in Central and Eastern Europe, I will continue to take pictures, but again, without necessarily any preconceived notion or use for them. Yeah.
Okay, but thank you for the interview. It was nice to meet you, and a very nice exhibition you made here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.